Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Science of Mind class. We're truly delighted that you have joined us this morning. Absolutely love being with you on a Sunday morning. Richard and I are here in the studio. We want to make a huge shout out to Ryan Brown. He's actually on vacation and he is helping us out this morning from Moab. Is that Utah?
Yeah, I'm in the National Arches, wherever that
is. Which is a glorious place. And Ryan, we're so grateful. We're so grateful for you because Richard and I could not do this on our own. And we're grateful that you're spending this hour of your vacation with us. And we're grateful that all of you are spending this time with us as we continue talking about physical perfection in the science of mind. And so we come to this chapter, Man Reenacts God. So once again, we constantly have to do this, right? We recognize that Ernest Holmes was writing at a time where the assumption was that man and he was actually included all of humanity, which of course we know doesn't actually do that. And so when I read all of this stuff, I automatically gender neutralize it because we know today that it's really important. I will also tell you, just as an aside, that all of this was incorrectly translated from German. The man is the English translation of the German word Mensch, and it's not actually the word for a man. The word for a man is Herr, and Mensch actually means human being. But when it was translated into English, it sounded so close to man that's how it was translated. So Mensch was used for both human being and for the male person, man. It's just one of those interesting things. And so while we're on a complete tangent and an absolute aside, we'll also let you know that a really interesting thing to think about is that when Freud and Carl Jung used the word that was translated into ego, Geist, it actually means soul. And it was translated into the word ego. Now think about that. What an extraordinary difference. We would understand our own psychology and psychoanalysis if we did not equate that which they were pointing to as ego with the psychic structure of how we engage mentally with the space-time continuum. Yeah, it's really, these things are just fascinating to think about. So anyway, that's our little aside. So I'm going to be just translating if you're reading along. And so we reenact God. We reenact the nature of the infinite reality. And this is the thing that we must always remember. When we're thinking about physical perfection, healing, whether we're healing our bodies or changing a condition or creating something new, we're not reaching for something outside of ourselves. We're not trying to turn on a law outside of ourselves. We are actually participating in the co-creative process. And that the very way that we understand the universe creates, spirit creates, the infinite creates, from a causal impulse, which in a lawful manner becomes an outpictured physical effect. That very way that the universe is creating all the time, that God or spirit is creating all the time, is exactly the way in which we ourselves are constructed, because we're the place where the universe is waking up to itself as an individual. So these very things are true about us as well. And so in this section, what the science of mind is really focusing on is this idea that it is our consciousness, our conscious consciousness, that is the only part of us that has the ability to choose. Our subconscious and our bodies are not able to do that. Our subconscious mind, the soul, the infinite universal subjectivity that is that lawful creative process, all it can do is take whatever's given to it and make it so. And the body is simply an outer effect of all of that. It is the representation of whatever causal impulse was placed into universal subjectivity. And so it goes on to say, the universe is the result of the contemplation of the divine mind. God creates by contemplating its own I amness. This is reenacted in us. We, as conscious mind and spirit, we are conscious mind and spirit. And as we contemplate, we reflect our thought into universal subjectivity, where it is received and acted upon. It's interesting that he uses the word contemplate. It's not just, oh, I'm having a rational linear thought, and oh, I'm saying these words to myself. But as we contemplate, which means really work with and embody in a conscious manner a new idea, and we make it real to ourselves, and there is that which within us that says, yes, this is true, in that moment, it is placed into the law, into universal subjectivity, and the body must follow. So the mind or soul accepts these images of thought. It operates upon unformed substance and causes it to take definite form as body, which is unconscious form. Not that there isn't consciousness and intelligence in our body. Of course there are. How would our cells know whether they're stem cells or brain cells or heart cells, right? And how do they know what to do? Of course there's intelligence and consciousness, but there's not self-consciousness. So he uses the word unconscious. Body of itself without mind has neither consciousness nor volition, which means that our bodies don't choose. Our bodies don't choose in any conscious manner. They can only reflect what has been implanted in universal subjectivity. So here's the important part. So now we've kind of recapped, right, how we understand the universe works. It works the same way in, through, and as us. Although, this is the first full paragraph on page 197, although we are inherently a perfect idea, our individuality covers this idea with the forms of thought which we image. Although we are inherently a perfect idea, right? The perfect idea of the universe individualized, expressed through a physical form, our individuality covers this idea with forms of thought which we image. We come into this we come into this life, this physical life, your life, my life right now, subject to the race consciousness. So subject to everything that has happened before in human consciousness, about how life works, about what it is to be happy, about what it is to be safe and secure, about what it is that life is about how all this works and what's really going on here. We come into this life subjective to the race consciousness, so human race, and then our cultural, ethnic consciousness, our religious, whatever religion we practiced as a child, and then our family, right? And to his own environment, right? That's our family. That's whether we grow up in a first world country or a third world country, or what culture we grow up in, or even what subculture we grow up in. And so we come into this life subject to race consciousness, that means human race, to our own environment, and we unfold our own personality. So our own individual tendencies, our own likes and dislikes. I happen to like talking about the science of mind. I happen to love to meditate and study. You might love to paint, or you might love numbers, or you might love to go walk in the woods with a child, right? So we all have our own unique personality, which is the filter through which this infinite reality is expressing individuality. So race consciousness, human consciousness, the environment in which we grow, and our own personality, and therefore begin to create a new subjective thought, which isn't the same as the inherently perfect idea. Man thinks, we think, and observes. We draw certain conclusions and deductions and incorporate them into our mentality, until at last they also become a part of the relative cause of our objective existence. So relative cause, right? Those of you who have taken Thomas Troward, who have read some of Thomas Troward's work, right? We have first cause, infinite first cause, which is the cause that creates the physical universe as a whole. Then we have spiritual cause, which is when we are in alignment with that perfect idea. And then relative cause. Relative cause means when we have taken things outside of ourselves, the objective world, our environment, the physical world, the thoughts and feelings that we have, and have made them causal, even if they don't align with the perfect idea that is inherent within us. So, always, anything that's in italics or in capital letters, he's like, really, like, pay attention to this. Healing, then, is accomplished by uncovering, neutralizing, and erasing false images of thought, and letting the perfect idea reflect itself through subjective mind into the body. Healing, then, is accomplished by uncovering, neutralizing, and erasing false images of thought, and letting the perfect idea reflect itself through subjective mind into the body. The perfect idea is already there. Wholeness, health, the perfect functioning of a physical body as it moves in the world. Our own wholeness, our own spiritual being, having a human experience, moving through a body that is able to function in the space-time continuum. Now, a perfect idea is not what we see in the magazines. It's not what you see on television. It's not what you see in the movies. We're not talking about a perfect outer form where the teeth are straight and the body's the perfect shape. No, a perfect idea is a vehicle that absolutely, in its wholeness and strength and vitality, allows us to engage in the space-time continuum. That's what a perfect idea is, where the systems and processes and organs and everything are working in a way that allows us to move and enjoy and express in the space-time continuum. So I would, take out the word perfect and replace that with wholeness, where our body is wholly itself, working as a whole, harmonious, integrated system that allows us to manage the space-time continuum, which really has nothing to do with how much we weigh or how tall we are. Quite frankly, even whether we have all the digits and limbs that we need, or that our eyes work perfectly, or that, do you see? It's not perfection like we've been inundated in the last 100 years to think about what is perfect, what is a perfect human, which is all outer stuff. But the idea of wholeness, that we are capable of expressing and enjoying this beautiful reality in which we find ourselves in, this physical expression. So we are uncovering, neutralizing, and erasing false images of thought. What are these false images of thought? One, that we could have psychological, well, for lack of a better word, psychological smallness, psychological a lack of a sense of ourselves as worthy or capable or good enough, or any of those kinds of things. And that can outpicture, right, as a body that represents that. So we need to protect ourselves and we put on 50 extra pounds, whatever it is, right? Psychological false images. We also have false ideas, uncovering, neutralizing, and erasing false images of thought about what perfect actually means, what it is we're trying to do, who it is we're trying to become, how it is we're trying to engage in life. And we can do all kinds of things. For instance, myself personally, I never get sick because there's a bug. I never get sick because it's a flu season. I never get sick because, because I don't believe in all those things. I inevitably and invariably get sick because I haven't taken care of myself. Been working too hard, under too much stress, and I've simply forgotten that, I actually need a break every once in a while. And it's really okay to go do other things, right? My false belief is that I am valued for what I do. I am valued for how much I accomplish. So how does that translate? I do and do and do and do, seek to accomplish until my body finally says, hello, and my psyche says, need a break, and my spirit says, are you kidding me? And boom, I get sick. False idea that I have to do and accomplish until ad infinitum, until literally my body says, okay, now it's time for a break. Do you see? So we can have a psychological false idea about ourselves. We can have a false idea about what we're doing with our lives. We can have a fundamentally false idea that physical reality is causal. Oh my God, it's the flu season. Oh my God, I have to be scared of COVID-19. Oh my God, my parents had this and that wrong with them, and it's an inherited disease. So, it's bound to happen. Do you see? These are all the ways in which we falsely identify with the physical reality as causal. And we make it then a relative cause. It then impacts us. Or we have some physical ailment or some physical inability, and we say that is now impinging on our wholeness. My ears don't work as well. My sight doesn't work as well. I limp when I walk. Whatever. And then we say, oh my gosh, we have a false idea that somehow this impacts the truth of our being, that I'm now not whole. There's something wrong with me. That too is a false thought. Nothing can change our wholeness. And so we find our wholeness in some other form and expression. So the false thought we seldom have is, oh my God, I'm going to get X, Y, Z, right? It does happen, but we do ourselves a disservice if we always think it's so cut and dried. The thought of an illness causes the illness. It can, but usually what's going on in our bodies is an outpicturing of this false images of thought. And we're not trying to make wholeness or a perfect idea and then hoping that it will show up. What we're really doing is exploring those false thoughts and saying, you're false, not true. That's false, not true. That's false, not true. And we're pushing aside the veils of these relative causes. And what did we say they were? Human consciousness, things that we picked up in our own environment, and our own conclusions and deductions that we have incorporated into the construct of what we think is true about life, how we think it works, and what that means for us and our physicality. When one realizes that everything is mind and that nothing moves but mind, and that the only instrument of mind is thought, which is contemplation in some form or other, again, not just, I'm having a left brain linear rational thought, but contemplation of some kind or other, we will see that nothing can permanently heal unless it is accompanied by right thinking. Or another way of saying it is, right thinking permanently heals things. All right, so we're going to stop there because this, there's a lot of pieces of this. Do we really believe that we are co-creative? Do we really understand that when we pay attention to our thoughts and beliefs and attitudes, that we are paying attention to what is causally creative in our own lives? Do we really believe this? I always think of it as the edge of our unbelief. Where's the edge in this? Oh yeah, I get it there and I get it there, but no, I don't get it there. Or no, I don't really see how it works over there, right? There's nothing wrong with having an edge of unbelief. We all do. If we didn't have it, we'd be turning pink and transcending, right? Or walking through walls, or who knows what we would be doing. But it's necessary to identify the edges of our unbelief. What part of life, especially our physical life and our bodies, what part of it do we believe is is within the circle of this can be healed with spiritual work, and what part of our life is outside of that? Right? These are the questions I would pose today, and invite you to think about, and and then see what comments, stories, sharings, questions you might have. So we're going to take this opportunity now to stop. We're going to turn to, Ryan in Moab, Utah, in one of the most beautiful places in the world, Arches and Canyonland National Parks. Ryan, we're going to turn it over to you and see what's going on out there.
Well, what's going on is it's hot.
Uh-oh.
It's warm and it's beautiful. So, anyways, for those who are here in the Zoom room, if you'd like a question or comment on the questions that Dr. Peacher just asked, go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon located down below on your screen. Or you can always chat the comment or question inside of the chat box, and I'll read it out loud. If you're watching us on Facebook Live right now, you can go ahead and put your comments inside of the comments field down below, and I can read those out loud as well too. Right now, I'm not seeing any hands raised, and I'm not seeing anything coming through the chat, so I think you caught them like a deer in headlights. I can keep talking until I get somebody here. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call you in Deborah. Deborah, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Deborah.
Good morning. Good morning. There's one question that I do have about the first part of this chapter.
Yes.
Where does our subconscious mind come into the mix? Is our mind both conscious and unconscious?
That is a brilliant question, Deborah. So the short answer to that is yes. In the science of mind, we don't like to use the word unconscious because it implies asleep or not paying attention. So in the science of mind, we use the terms conscious and subjective minds. So the subjective mind is loosely equated with the psychological understanding of the subconscious mind, right? It is below the level of consciousness. We are not consciously aware of it, but it is constantly awake and constantly operating. So it's not unconscious, meaning that it's asleep. What we understand is that there's really only one mind. There's one mind, one infinite mind, and that there's our mind, which is our use of that infinite mind, and it's all the same mind, which just throws you into an absolute tizzy of a paradox. So we're gonna focus on our minds, and what we want to recognize is that we're always talking about the functionality of mind. Not like we have a conscious mind over here and a subconscious or subjective mind over here, as if they are two separate things. What we have is the mind functioning consciously, which means with awareness. We can be aware. When we say conscious, we mean we're aware. We're able to make choices. We're able to notice, oh, I'm having this thought. I don't like the way that it's playing out in my life. Do I really believe that's true? I can do all of that. I can ask all of those questions. We can think things that are patently untrue. We can imagine things that we've never seen because we're manipulating that which we are aware of. And that's what the part of us that has the ability to contemplate and choose, right? Significant. That part of mind, which is subconscious or subjective, is the aspect of our mind that receives thoughts, that takes in choices, and operates in the world, operates in our bodies and in our experience as the doer. So when you think about it, let's start with just our bodies, right? We have voluntary and involuntary things that are going on in our bodies. So our heartbeat is essentially involuntary. There is something within us keeping our heart beating. And so we recognize that the intelligence that has created our heart and is keeping our heart beating is a function of the subjective mind. It's the automatic systems. Something like our breath is an interesting thing because it normally is running completely in the background. We're breathing, you're sitting there breathing, you probably haven't thought about it until I just now said the word breath, and all of a sudden, oh wait, I'm conscious of my breath. And I can actually breathe more slowly, I can breathe more quickly, and if I run, my breath will automatically change to respond to the fact that I need more oxygen because now I'm running instead of just sitting here. And so we have those things that are actually under both our subconscious control and conscious control. And of course, if you think about, the yogis and the people who have spent a lifetime bringing the subconscious aspects of physicality under conscious control. They can control their heartbeat, they control the temperatures of their bodies, they can sit in snow and melt it, those kinds of things. We begin to see that which is in our subconscious or subjective mind is available to us to work with and change. Why this is important is because that's how creation works. So where this comes in, Deborah, is that if we're not paying attention, if we're not conscious about what we're thinking about our physical bodies or the situation in the world or whether or not we're healthy or all of those kinds of things, if we're not consciously paying attention to those things, what's managing and causal in our life are those things that are running in our subjective reality, in our subconscious mind. And what did we say those were? Those things we received from just being part of human race that we get by osmosis. Nobody has to teach us, right? Things that we just hear and we just absorb from our families and from our own conclusions and deductions. Those things have all become part of what we believe to be true about life, which is what is in the subconscious or subjective mind. And our job is to see it, right? Just like people have taken control of their heartbeat and their breathing and their temperature, we want to see what's in there, take control of it, and ask ourselves, is this really true? Is this really in alignment with the perfect idea or the wholeness that is the idea behind a physical body? And so we want to make it conscious so that we can then make choices about it. Now, the reason that Science of Mind uses the word subjective as opposed to subconscious is because, one, we can actually become consciously aware of it, and two, the word subjective, and it's kind of a weird thing, but Science of Mind, the idea is that it is subject to the impress of conscious thought, which means it's changeable, which means it's not written in stone. The only thing that's true with a capital T that is the ultimate truth is the wholeness that is the idea of physicality that's expressed uniquely in blonde hair and green eyes and well, it's not really white skin. It's kind of pinky, light brown skin, or black skin and black hair and black eyes, or tall or short, or right. And so these two things play together, and it's all part of the same mind. It's all part of the functionality of mind as the wholeness. And always the question for us is, what are we making causal? Am I allowing that which is running in my subjective mind to be causal in my life? Or am I examining it, exploring it, deciding, is it true with the capital T? The only thing that's true is that there is an idea of a whole human body that functions beautifully in the space-time continuum. Anything beyond that is a relative cause. I have this coloration because I was born in a Germanic family, and I have apparently a lot of Nordic influences, because my body doesn't even know how to sweat. And that is not part of the perfect idea of a human body. Do you see? That's just the outer form that it created based on human consciousness, the environment in which I was born, and then the beliefs, thoughts, and attitudes and decisions that I made around that. So I hope that helps, Deborah. It's a great question. And so what we're constantly trying to do is to take those things that are in our subjective reality, and we're trying to examine them. Are they in alignment with spiritual truth? Like, for instance, for me, is it true that I'm only valuable when I'm doing and accomplishing? Well, intellectually, I know that that's not true. So I keep working on believing it. The moment I believe it, that now is subjectified in my subjective mind as a new reality, a new belief, and it writes over the old belief that says something different. That is a great question. I hope that has helped answer it. All right, Ryan, I'm turning to you again.
Yeah, we have a couple people with their hands raised. So lots of great questions and comments.
Let's go.
So Armando, I'm going to call you up next, and then I'll call up Connie. Armando, will you please unmute yourself?
Hey, Armando.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to share an experience, and this kind of touches on this. One, I do believe being co-creative, and there's been some co-creating happening, but this particular week, there were some deadlines that I needed to meet in order to get some funding to support these new models that I co-created with the universe. And what happened was I was so focused on writing the compelling story, worked up in the details and the how of the budget and how am I going to get this across. And I was experiencing random pain throughout my body. And I had to stop and breathe for a moment and acknowledge that pain that I was experiencing through my body. And it continued on. So what I did is I stepped away and I went into meditation, and I had to trust. Mm-hmm. And so I checked in, and what occurred to me was that I was so busy in the busyness of getting this prepared and meeting a deadline that I wasn't basking in the reality of what was about to happen, yes. What was about to manifest. And so when I went into that part of holding the vision and believing in the vision and seeing what that's going to look like and how it's going to impact other people's lives, that's when I was able to step back, come back, and do what I needed to do. And I felt really good. My body felt good. I met the deadline. And then fast forward a couple of hours, I received a random text message from a individual that's out on the street that we connected him 2 weeks ago that I've never met, to say thank you because he got hired for a job and he starts the next day. And it's just a reminder of holding the vision, believing, trusting, just trusting, and it works itself out. And then to be able to have this random person text to say thank you is such a reminder about holding the vision near and dear. And even when things are going up against, there's still opportunities to make that choice and say, no, I'm going to hold on. I'm just going to keep holding on.
Yes. Beautiful. Oh, Armando, thank you for sharing. That is awesome. And I don't know that that process could have been more perfectly described than the way that you describe it. Brilliant. There's so much studies now today that say that so many of our physical pains and ailments, they're real enough. Yes, you do in fact have a migraine, and yes, you do in fact have whatever the blah, 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 blah thing is, as Armando talked about, the pains in your body. So many of them are now directly related to stress. And what is stress but our needing to figure it out and being anxious about the end result and trying to get it all put up together and all lined up and all right? Which is the antithesis of recognizing that we are co-creating with a universal power and presence that takes the image of our thought and makes it so. And Armando, I want to underscore, right? Trust that we understand that we reenact the creative process, that we're using it all the time. And when we can step back, release the stress even a little bit or completely, so many of our physical ailments actually begin to miraculously heal and change. Beautiful story, Armando. Thank you so much. All right, Ryan.
Okay, Connie, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Thank you, Ryan. Hi, Reverend Peter.
Hi, Connie.
Good morning. I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it fits beautifully into what we're doing today. And it helps me understand it a lot more deeply in the context of Science of Mind, and I'm very grateful. When I was little, I don't know about how old, I experienced a major trauma. No need to go into details. But I shoved it into my subconscious mind, and I was not aware of it consciously. Mm-hmm. But it was sourcing my life.
Yeah.
And what I found out later was that it caused me not to trust people.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through some years of not trusting until I was about 24, 25, and I started meditating. TM is what I do. Everybody knows that. But about 2 weeks later, after I started it, a lot of what was in my subconscious became conscious. And then I realized, okay, then I had choice. And I realized that I wasn't trusting, and I was even given an image of walking through the woods and coming to a fork. One side led to connection, the other side led to separation. Choose.
Yes.
You choose.
Beautiful.
I was given. I mean, it was amazing. It was like it was just handed to me. And then I chose connection. Mm-hmm. And I've been working on that ever since, and I'm pretty good now, but still working on it. And here I am, an older person. And then another major one was finances, because I'm not working at the community college. I need more private students in English as a second language. And I didn't get all fluffed up and excited and upset about making my end-of-month expenses. I knew it would come. And a couple of days ago, I was in a lesson with a student, and I get these little pings on my computer when I get text messages. I got a Zelle payment of $200 from a former student.
Wow.
And there it went. I just almost went into tears with this student I was with at the moment, because I thought, oh my God, this is going to do it for me. I mean, it's a matter of just that.
Yes.
And I trusted, but there it was. And then I called him afterwards and I said, did you send me $200? And he said, yes. He said, I know you're a teacher. I know that things are short these days, and I just got the thought to do it. Oh my goodness.
Beautiful. That is great, Connie, and thank you so much for sharing that. That's the miracle that happens when we are focusing on a truth with a capital T, and a spiritual causation, when we are in alignment with the perfect idea. In that case, Connie, your perfect idea was, I live in an abundant universe and all my needs are met. Boom, there it is. And we don't have to figure it out, right? Where our stress comes in is when we're trying to figure out, well, what's going to happen? Do I need another student? How am I going to get another student? Oh my gosh, how am I going to do all these things? and to keep that end result in mind, to contemplate the perfect idea. And again, I'm not perfect like in the way that we have come to think of perfection, but in its wholeness. Perfection doesn't mean everything is exactly the same. I mean, just go into a forest. Every tree looks different. I always love, there's a tradition in the Jewish tradition, there's an idea that when you build a house, that you always leave something slightly undone, not completely finished or perfect. Why? Because only God is perfect. Because the minute it comes into physical form, it's going to be individualized. It's going to be individuated, and therefore it's going to be a little different from any other form, any other way of being expressed. So really we have to divorce our idea of perfect from perfectionism, from the media, from flaw. I guess the thing is that perfect means flawless, without ever making a mistake, which is all nonsense, right? So wholeness is a much more valuable understanding of this idea of perfection. And then we can trust it. And it shows up in these quote unquote miraculous ways. Thank you so much, Connie, for sharing that. And also the idea that you can realize that that's why when we do meditation and spiritual practice, when we become still, we begin to see what's running in the background. What's running in the background? You can find out what's running in the background. What's running in your subjective subconscious mind is by listening to the words that you use to describe things, especially stressful situations, ailments, other people. What are the common words that you use? What are the ways in which you describe it? What are the ways in which you engage with it? That's going to reveal what false beliefs are running back there in the background. Another really interesting thing to do, I used to practice this all the time. I would try to surreptitiously catch what was going on in the mind chatter when I was just on idle. When I wasn't, like sitting at a stop sign, waiting at a stoplight, or standing in the grocery line, or just those moments when I'm not actively engaged in accomplishing something. I'm not necessarily engaged with another person. And I think of it as when my brain is on idle. It's really interesting to begin noticing. What are you thinking about? Where did you go? What did you start processing in your mind? What random thoughts? Boop, boop. What's happening is you're becoming aware of those thoughts that are going on in the background that are a little closer to the surface, that are just randomly coming to your awareness. Oh my gosh, can you discover what's back in there? Now, doesn't help to shame or blame ourselves, doesn't. But we have to take responsibility that it's there and to recognize, yep, that is what's creating our reality. Not necessarily the idea that we are going to be in charge of our reality and I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. It's what's in our subjective mind that's actually creating our reality. So that's the other thing to say, right? We can't not have things running in the background. We are designed to run on habits. We are designed to run on those things that we believe to be true. That's what the universe takes and makes it so. That's what the law of cause and effect says. Oh, this is the cause, that's the effect. But we are conscious beings, so we can contemplate spiritual truth. We can look at the disparity between spiritual truth and what's running in the background, and we can choose what we are going to pay attention to so much and begin to believe as true so much that it becomes subjectified, right? The subconscious mind is subject to the impress of our conscious chosen contemplation. And again, it's not enough to say, oh, I'm going to think about I'm abundant. right? Contemplation means my whole body, my whole being gets involved in it. Abundance, health, wholeness, joy, effortlessness, easy co-creation, right? I have to contemplate it until it becomes real to me, true for me. And when it becomes real and true for me, that is the key to it becoming subjectified. Because what's running in the background are those things we believe to be real and true, regardless of what we say, regardless of what we intellectually know. What's running in the background is what we actually believe to be real and true. And so our spiritual knowing and the experiences that we're having in the world, the disconnect there is the disconnect between those two things. And our job is to subjectify our belief in the truth with a capital T, or remove the old false beliefs. What does he say? Here, uncover, neutralize, and erase. Uncover, neutralize, and erase. All right, we're coming to the end of our time, but Ryan, I want to check in. Do you any things you want to read to us? Anything, last comments or thoughts before we close?
Well, if I ask you another question, we're going to be on here for another 10 minutes. So you tell me, Peter, do you want one last question?
Sure, go ahead. We're having so much fun. Come on. Lay it on me.
This one kind of, I guess, will help a couple people who've been asking this question. It really revolves around the fear of creating your own mental illness. So, for instance, if you all of a sudden you're breathing and then you feel something in your lungs, you think automatically cancer, and then the next thing you know, you're constantly building up this mental callus of I have cancer, oh God, I have cancer. And the fear of, well, am I mentally making that happen now? So what's your thoughts about that, and how can we cure it?
Oh, it's a great question. So the bad news is that fear is creative. The good news is that you're in charge of that fear. Yeah. And so that's what we do when we reveal truth to ourselves. We say, oh my gosh, I have something going on in my lungs. I might be getting cancer. Oh, wait, no. I am a whole perfect and complete human being. There is no reason to assume this. No, I am putting a spiritual cause in motion that I'm perfectly healthy. I am protected in every way. My body knows what to do. Do you see? That's our job. So not to be afraid of the fear, but it is a signal that you actually within you already know that you are not thinking things that are in alignment with spiritual truth. What does Bob Newhart say? Stop it. Stop it. Is this easy? Of course not, right? That's why we have all these spiritual practices that teach us discipline, that teach us that we, the I that I am, that can contemplate truth, is the one we want to have in charge. So when we have these feelings of fear and this, oh my God, we have to stop. Armando gave a beautiful description of this. Stop. Whether you meditate, do spiritual mind treatment, start affirmations, start reading a spiritual book, something. We have to stop and ask ourselves, what is the divine ideal here? What is the spiritual truth here? And we have to focus on that and keep inviting it to flood and fill our consciousness. Now, there's all kinds of tricks that you can do. When I first started doing this, it's the old warding off of evil gesture. So you do it mentally. And I know people who say erase, erase, erase. Erase, 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 right? I'm literally consciously deciding to erase that thought from my mind. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Cancel, cancel, cancel. I'm deliberately canceling the emotion of fear. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to allow that to run me. All right. I mean, it sounds silly, and you don't want to do it around people who are going to go poo, poo, poo. Do it in your own consciousness. Do it in your own mind. This is you taking charge of what's going on consciously, contemplating a new idea. Well, I'm whole, perfect, and complete. I'm not going to worry about this cough because I'm whole, perfect, and complete. I know my lungs are working beautifully. I spend time with that image. I embrace it as the spiritual truth. I keep working with it. I contemplate it until it becomes the subjective reality. So some of you have heard this story. I mean, I'll give you the example for me. When I was 19, I started having what I later understood to be panic attacks. They would wake me up in the middle of the night. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. I had chest pains. I would be hyperventilating. I felt dizzy. I felt out of control. I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that I was going to die, that something was happening and I didn't know what it was. And this started happening very, very, very regularly. Occasionally I would have it during the day, but almost inevitably it would wake me up in the middle of the night. And I had, thank God, started studying this. And I had a couple of years into studying this. And I thought, wait, but this isn't the spiritual truth, but I'm going to die. But this isn't the spiritual truth. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to really combat this. I actually didn't know what was going on. Panic attacks weren't as ubiquitously known back then. And so, what I realized was when I got out of bed and I walked, it was a little easier because I wasn't laying there in bed examining all of the feelings that I was having, wondering if any one of them in any second was going to kill me. So I got out of bed and I started pacing. Now I was terrified, I was anxious, and here I am in the middle of the night outside in front of my house. Well, so I could go as far as the house next door on one hand and the house next door on the other. As long as I could somehow see my own house, I felt like I was going to be safe. And if I had to, I could run inside. So I would pace back and forth in front of these three houses. And I would do that for an hour or two, sometimes 3 in the middle of the night. And I would, with my measured step, I would say, I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. I can't breathe. I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. Was that my heart? I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. Do you see, I fought with my own consciousness to make it think and pay attention to what I wanted it to think and pay attention to. I did that for months, 9 months, actually, to be exact. And I remember the 9th month, because I had to go back and think about it, going, wow, it's been weeks since I've woken up in the middle of the night with that feeling and that sensation. And it got to the point where when it would even just start coming on, instantly, I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. I no longer had to walk. I just went, I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. I'm one with God, I'm totally healthy. This is the only truth I accept. 9 months of that work. I've never had a panic attack ever since. And that's right. And yes, actually, it was work. It was struggle. I had to wrench my consciousness away from the examining of everything that was going on in my body and my belief that I was going to die any minute. I had to wrench my body away from that into the spiritual truth. I never took any drugs for it of any kind. That's not good or bad. We need to take drugs because we have a mental challenge. For God's sakes, do it. It's no different than insulin. But that was, I didn't know any different. And I refused to allow my bodily sensations or my emotional feelings to be in charge. The I that I am, the spiritual truth of me that could contemplate wholeness, that's who I wanted to be in charge. And because I'm a conscious being, that's the choice that we have over and over and over again. It's a great question. This is why we teach all these spiritual practices. This is why you need to be in classes. This is why I say to everybody, take at least one class a year. The reading, the conversation, the every week after week after week having to go into the classroom and talk about it keeps our practice fresh and alive. And it keeps us working with these things so that each time something comes up that is not in alignment with the spiritual truth that we know, we actually have opportunities to practice with dealing with it, shifting it, changing it, healing it, creating a new outcome. So that is a fabulous question. I hope that story helps you. So we're going to bring ourselves to a close now. Thank you again, Ryan, for doing this on your vacation. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Richard, for being here. Thanks, all of you, and your comments and questions. Fabulous. And we will carry on next week with Tracy Brown. She'll be here next week for you, and I know that you will super enjoy it. Have a beautiful and blessed and glorious day. Join us in a little bit for our Sunday celebration, which you can zoom into, as you know, or watch on Facebook Live. Love you. Thank you for sharing. See you very soon. Bye for now.